stop what you're doing right now. No, seriously. You click this video because you're supposed to be doing something else. That email, that project, that dish in the sink that's actively developing its own complex microbial ecosystem. Here's the first truth that no life coach, productivity guru, or self-help book will tell you. Procrastination is not a time management problem. It's an emotional management problem masquerading as a time management problem. Your brain isn't broken, it's just a lazy, overdramatic idiot that's running a fundamentally flawed operating system. I'm talking about 3 profound logical lies your brain tells you every single day to keep you comfortable, keep you safe, and keep you utterly, totally stuck. In the next few minutes, we're going to expose those lies, and then I'm going to give you a 12-minute fix, a psychological bridge that connects your current, flawed, comfort-seeking self to the successful person you actually want to be. And yes, it only takes 12 minutes to start. Let's start with the disclaimer. This video is compiled from various sources and analyzes widely recognized psychological concepts. If you have additional information, data, or personal insights to share, please leave a comment below. The first and perhaps most devastating lie is what I call the superhuman future self theory. You believe that the person who has to do the hard work is not you, the person currently binge-watching a video about procrastination, but a mythical, better-resourced version of you called future you. Future you is a superhero. Future you is energized, laser-focused, perfectly hydrated, and somehow possesses a PhD in whatever subject you're trying to avoid. Future you will wake up at 5 a.m., run a marathon, meditate, and then gleefully start on that complex, soul-crushing spreadsheet. You, present you, are just the administrative assistant, kindly scheduling the hardest, most miserable tasks for your powerful, benevolent, but completely imaginary savior. Think about the sheer arrogance of this. You, right now, look at a difficult task and say, "Nope, too hard for this guy. I'll defer this to the guy who is going to be 24 hours older and therefore magically immune to human weakness." And then what happens when tomorrow rolls around? Future you arrives, checks his to-do list, sees the mountain you dumped on him, and immediately says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, no way, this is a job for future you." It's an endless, cowardly chain of self-betrayal. You are actively betraying your future self over and over, all based on the delusional logic that a change in the date on your calendar equals a fundamental change in your character. The brutal truth? Future you is just present you, but more tired and with less time. You only have one self. Stop treating your future like a landfill for all your emotional trash. If you appreciate this kind of blunt, no-nonsense psychological breakdown, take 1 second and smash that subscribe button. It's the easiest commitment you can make to your future self today.
The second lie is more insidious because it's rooted in a very primitive part of your brain, the part that thinks bears are still a serious threat. I call it the emotional conservation law. You don't procrastinate because you're lazy or because you love time off. You procrastinate because the task you're avoiding has triggered a negative emotion, and your brain's one and only job is to get you away from pain. Immediately. The task itself, the actual physical act of writing or calculating or calling, is not the problem. The problem is the emotions attached to the task, the anxiety of possible failure, the fear of judgment, the crushing boredom of data entry, or the simple suffocating feeling of being overwhelmed. Procrastination is just a short-term mood regulator. When your brain senses the low-level pain of starting that report, it instantaneously offers an alternative. The immediate, easy hit of dopamine from scrolling through Twitter, eating a donut, or watching a YouTube video about procrastination. You are not choosing a different task, you are choosing a different feeling. You are trading the long-term, delayed, but massive reward of completing the project for the short-term, instant, but tiny relief of distraction. This is a fundamentally broken calculation. Your brain is prioritizing a momentary over a lasting aha. And the longer you wait, the bigger the task becomes in your mind, and the more terrifying the emotional trigger, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of avoidance. The emotional volume on that task is turned up to 11 simply because you refuse to touch the volume knob. This brings us to the third lie, the volume illusion. Your brain, bless its prehistoric heart, is terrible at estimating task size. When you think, "I need to write that essay," Your brain doesn't process open laptop type 1 sentence. It processes a massive, 100% complete, 5,000-word monolith of suffering. It sees the whole volume of the task, but none of the steps required to get there. It's like standing at the base of Mount Everest and thinking, I have to climb the whole thing right now. The sheer perceived magnitude triggers an emotional shutdown. The task isn't 100% hard. The only 100% hard part is the start. The activation energy required to move from 0% to 1% is disproportionately higher than the energy needed to move from 50% to 51%. But your brain, being a lazy logician, lumps it all together. It's the equivalent of saying, I can't drive across the country because I don't have enough gas right now to make the entire trip. It's a ridiculous all-or-nothing fallacy. The only logical antidote is to break the illusion of volume. Stop seeing the Everest. Start focusing on the first, tiny, ridiculous foothold. If you believe the task is a crushing 100%, you will stay on the couch. But if you reframe it as a manageable 1%, your brain's pain avoidance circuits, which remember are running the show, can be tricked. The key is micro-commitment. Okay, so the problem is flawed emotional and temporal logic. How do we fix a stubborn drama queen brain in just 12 minutes? We create a psychological bridge, a temporary contract that sidesteps all three lies. It's called the 12-minute future self contract. Step 1. Diminish the volume. 1 minute. Stop thinking about the task. Think about the absolute smallest, most ridiculously easy first step. Not write the report. That's too big. Make it open the blank document and type the date. Or if you're cleaning the kitchen, don't say clean the kitchen, say pick up 1 fork. You are making the task so pathetically tiny that your lazy brain cannot reasonably trigger an anxiety response. The goal isn't productivity yet. The goal is activation. We are going from 0% to 1%.
Step 2. The future self-contract. 2 minutes. This is where we cut off the imaginary superhuman future self. You are making an if-then plan. You write down this explicit contract. If it is 7 p.m. tonight, then I will go to the kitchen and I will pick up 1 fork. Specificity kills procrastination. No vague promises like, I'll do it later. You are defining the time, the place, and the single action. By creating this contract, you are offloading the decision-making process from your fatigued present self to a pre-committed cognitive trigger. Once 7 p.m. hits, your brain has no choice but to follow the predetermined script. The decision is already made. Step 3. Emotional surfing. 9 minutes. This is the core of the fix, the final 9 minutes. Once you've performed step 1, example, you've typed the date, you have to keep going for 9 minutes. 9 minutes. That's it. You are not committed to finishing the report. You are only committed to experiencing the emotion for 9 minutes. Why 9 minutes? Because you need to give yourself enough time to ride the initial wave of resistance, the anxiety, the boredom, the self-doubt, until it naturally starts to subside. Psychologists call this emotional surfing. You acknowledge the feeling, you let it be there, but you don't let it steer the ship. You are showing your brain that the perceived pain of the task is actually much less intense than the fear of the task. Crucially, after 9 minutes, you have absolute permission to stop. You can walk away guilt-free. But here's the secret. 90% of the time, once you've invested 9 minutes, the activation energy is spent. The volume illusion is broken. The emotional resistance has calmed down, and you will simply keep going. You didn't trick your future self. You created a successful present self. The great achievements of our civilization were not built by people who waited for motivation. They were built by people who understood that their future self would be just as flawed as their current one and who created systems to force activation regardless of their feelings.
The three lies, the mythical future self, the emotional conservation law, and the volume illusion are simply protective mechanisms from a brain that fears change more than it fears regret. You have the power right now, not tomorrow, to make an emotional investment of just 12 minutes. You can start small, you can make the contract, and you can ride the wave of initial resistance until it disappears. The biggest threat to your success is not laziness. It's the illogical belief that the hard part is the middle or the end, when in reality, the only truly hard part is the space between thinking about it and doing the first step. Now, here's the question I want you to sit with. If you knew with 100% certainty that you would succeed, but that the process would be excruciatingly boring for a mere 12 minutes, would you do it? The answer is yes. So, what are you waiting for? Let me know in the comments below. Which of the three lies are you currently telling yourself? And share this video with the person who needs this 12-minute fix the most.